Welcome to the Chapter 3 Stigma podcast. This podcast was created to be there for any individual who feels that they are at a low point in life and are confused, seemingly alone, and helpless in their situation. I am a recovering alcoholic, and I felt this way too, until I sat across the table from another addict who shared his story and made me realize that I was not alone in my struggles. My life was saved by this realization, and I hope to help anyone struggling by sharing my story to show you that you are not alone and that life can contain unbelievable riches and meaning. Welcome. I am glad you are here. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of the Chapter 3 Stigma podcast. Once again, for this week's episode, I have my wife, Alyssa, joining us again.
Hello.
And this is going to be, for the time being, the final episode. My plan is to take at least the summer months off and just kind of use it as an opportunity to really reflect on the broader body of work that has been put together over the last really year and a half with regards to Chapter 3 Stigma, to really give space to just spend time with family and devote that time and energy to other projects like the book that's going on, and again just to really reflect on where this has all come, because it's been quite the journey up to this point. I've said it numerous times and never really expected this to become what it has in terms of just sheer quantity and volume of production.
Yeah, it turns out you have a lot to say.
Yeah, I kind of knew that was a problem with me from the beginning, and I've gotten that feedback before, but it's definitely interesting to see right in front of your face like that. But one thing that was really interesting is I actually listened back to the very first episode, which was kind of the trailer, the teaser, and ultimately the vision of this body of work. And I was shocked at how aligned everything has been over this past year and a half. I genuinely feel like I didn't anticipate this when I first started this work, but even in that first episode, I call out the fact that I don't know, maybe this will help somebody whose loved one is struggling with alcoholism or addiction. And it was kind of said as a like passing comment. And as we've detailed, I'm really surprised and shocked at how much, really from like a second order impact standpoint, this has resonated with loved ones of addicts or alcoholics. So my thought was kind of in that vein. I think a beneficial way to wrap this up or put a temporary cap on it, maybe let's say, is to turn the tables on Alyssa. And, we've had episodes where it's been more conversational driven. She turned the table on me a few weeks ago for the 2-year milestone of my recovery. But I really wanted to take the time to reflect back on our journey and just ask her some questions that are maybe a little more tailored towards the experience of the loved one of an addict or an alcoholic from the perspective of one. I know it obviously has not been easy. Even in the time since recovery, it has not been, or entering into recovery, it has not been without its bumps and bruises. So, just in all honesty, some of these questions are questions that I've kind of alluded to, but maybe haven't straight out asked you, Alyssa. So I think it will be interesting.
All right, here we go.
Anything else you feel like in our conversation setting this up that I missed out on anything there?
No, let's just get into it. We'll see where things end up.
Sounds good. So I think the most difficult and most pressing question that I have, that many people likely have, is why did you stay during the difficult times? Why did you gut it out?
Yeah, it's a tough question. There's a lot that goes into it, and it's going to be very individualized by the relationship and the person that is experiencing it. There was many times over the years where that question did pop into my mind, and the question wasn't solely internal. It was brought to me by other people as well that could just tell that you were struggling. People who cared about me and wanted to see me in a good situation as well as you. And I mean, even to like people that were closer to you, but maybe they were just reaching out to me as well and just saying like, hey, I think, something's going on here. And, we care about you as much as we care about Kyle, and we want to see you be in a good place too, as a friend, not just as Kyle's significant other. So it has come up on a number of different occasions. I mean, I think ultimately when we entered into the promise of marriage, that was kind of the point at which I had made my decision. And so, I married you for life, and that was what I wanted to stick to. And so, and I'm someone who really, when I dig into something, like, I'm not easy to back off from it. Certainly. I think it's important to stay committed to the things in your life. And I mean, even that's been bad jobs along the way that I've had, and places where, like, I knew I didn't want to ultimately end up, and I still, stuck out my commitment in those moments. But I think ultimately what I knew was that there was so much good in you and so much promise, and I saw glimpses of that throughout our relationship that kept me hanging on. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to be in a sober place and really, see what that life could be like for us too. I mean, I think if things had deviated a different direction, this conversation might be quite a bit different, or maybe wouldn't be happening. But, I mean, ultimately, again, I made the commitment to you, and I made that commitment for the side of you that I knew was there.
What was it like, loving and caring and wanting those things for somebody who didn't feel the same way about themselves?
It was like spinning my wheels. Because I wanted it so badly for you, and I knew that you wanted it too. It was something that we both wanted, that you would be rid of this. And it was just like, it was like trying to like hold on to water. It just slips through your fingers, and you can't. And it was, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, like, we were living in a very difficult place by the end of it all, where it just felt like there was, like, is there ever going to be a different, like, is it ever going to change? Is it ever going to get better? Very hopeless state in certain respects. So it was so hard. I mean, I love you so much, and it was, I never wanted this for you to have to experience this.
Yeah. And was it obvious to you? And if so, how did you pick up on it? Was it obvious to you that there was a lack of care and love for myself personally?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it was very obvious to me. One, because I feel like you're, like, this is pretty common with someone who's going through an addiction, but just like your lack of self-care, like your showering, like the, I mean, I'm the person who does laundry in our household, and I would get through like a week of laundry. And it's like, Kyle, you only have one pair of boxers in this load. Like, what's going on? And, you know, or like one t-shirt in here, like, where are all your clothes? I know you've been, you know, like there was just things like that where it was pretty obvious to me that something was going on. Or like I look back through, you know, the iPhone like pops up random pictures or whatever, and I have a picture that popped up of you, and it's like, your beard was so unkept. And like, I know for you now, like that for you is like a very visual sign of like where you're at mentally.
Yeah.
And you look nice with the beard, don't get me wrong, but, it certainly is for you, I think, a symbol of a time where you just let yourself go a little bit in certain ways.
I just didn't care.
No, you just didn't care. Exactly.
Is what it came down to.
Yeah. Yep. So yeah, I definitely recognize that. And just like could sense it. I could always sense when something was about to come on or when you were about to spiral. And, you know, years back, I knew that was about alcohol. And then the plot kind of shifted, or you crafted a different story, turn it into, you know, a mental health scenario more so, which it was still alcohol. Like that still plays into mental health, but you know, changed the narrative a little bit, and unfortunately I played along with it. Whether or not like deep down I believed it, it's hard to say. I think that there was a self-preservation piece of me that really wanted to believe that it was true, just for the sake of like having a different answer than alcohol, especially when you were continuing to tell me that wasn't what was going on.
Yeah. And is that desire for it not to be, or was that desire for it not to be alcohol because of the hardships that we had early in our relationship where alcohol was the obvious culprit?
No, I just think I didn't want to admit that you were lying to me. Yeah. I think ultimately is what it was. Like, if it was alcohol, it was okay. Like I just wanted honesty, and that's, you know, not what I got in that scenario. I think again, it was more of that self-preservation of like, no way is this person that loves me so much lying to me for years in such a straightforward way. And just like able to do it so seemingly easily. I mean, I don't think it was easy for you, but
it became a default mode of operation at a certain point, and it chronically ate at me. But I think the reflexive, like, just lie. I mean, it was something I had to be super deliberate about after entering into recovery, and being comfortable being honest, even for like innocuous things. Like we've talked about, there's a breakthrough moment for me when I was driving home, and you and I were on the phone. You must have been on your lunch break or something like that. I was like 3 blocks away from our house, and we had gotten sidetracked off the conversation, and we're just kind of like small talk. And I would, for whatever reason, I was just super tired that day, and I just kind of wanted quiet time. And so I told you, when, again, 3 blocks away, I was like, I just pulled up to the house, gotta go. And then immediately I stopped myself and I said, you know what? That's not true. I'm like 3 blocks away, but I'm just tired of talking right now. And you kind of laughed about it, and you were like, all right, that's perfectly fine. Like, I'll talk to you when I'm done with work. But that was a really big moment for me, because I realized it's like, I don't even want these little petty lies, deliberate lies, to start edging their way in now. And still to this day, it feels like it takes me a lot of energy to open up and be honest in some instances, because I'm still fighting against that default mode, not to lie so much, but not to be fully honest with you. And I think it's just, at this point, it's continuing to get reps for us in that in that kind of mode.
Yeah. And I recognize those things too. I'd like to mention another reason that I feel like I stayed and why I gutted it out, I guess you could say. And another reason was I just found out I was pregnant with our daughter. And I wanted to give you the opportunity to come out of rehab, see what that brought for you. And also, you know, like we had this in some ways kind of like a new start, a new beginning going on in our family. And what would that look like? And give you the opportunity to show up and be the parent that maybe you weren't able to be in those early years with our son. And so I think that was another piece of it. And then also, like, there's a point of pride that comes into it too, of like, how could you possibly stick around with someone who, you know, lied to you for so many years or treated you this way, took advantage of you, created a, you know, in some ways a like codependency in your relationship. And there was a part of me that, you know, looked at that from maybe an outsider's viewpoint of like, yeah, how could I stick around? Like, do I have no self-respect that I would stick around? And then for me, I guess it was more so, well, maybe is it more respectful to myself to allow myself to experience happiness and to give you the chance to get to a place where that potential in our life could really come to fruition. Like I said, we had, you know, glimpses of that over the years or periods of time where that was really possible. And, you know, some of that harkens back to the beginnings of our relationship. Other times it was like, you know, joyful changes in our life, such as like getting married. But like those things also kept me in it, I would say, because there is a point of pride of like, what if I do stick around? What if this is really great? And it doesn't have to be this like only this terrible thing. And I think that just like you've come out of rehab and really taken on these projects such as writing, doing the Substack posts, this podcast, and really digging into your recovery and your health, both physical, mental, and repairing relationships and repairing our family relationships. Like those things are all really positives that you've come out of this with. And you can think of being an alcoholic as a truly negative thing, or you can think of it as being like this really positive opportunity for you to embrace life in a way that isn't tethered to a substance. Right. And so I guess I choose to see it in that way, in a lot of respects as well, as like it really gave us your admission of what was going on has given us a second chance or a change in life that we would have never expected. And I mean, you're 2 years sober. I'm 2 years sober as well. Yeah. And like,
yeah, we failed to mention that in the
I mean, it's not a big deal for me because it's not.
I know you just walked away.
I just walked away from it, but like, there are a lot of positive benefits that have come out of that. Like I've said it many times, but like I have never felt as healthy in my body, mentally and physically, as I have in the last 2 years. You know, probably since I was in high school, and you know, I'm double that age now. Right. And to feel that good and be double that age, I feel like that's a pretty positive thing for me too.
Yeah. Yeah. And you said something in there that is often overlooked in terms of these most important, intimate, loving relationships, especially entering into the early stages of recovery, is because of how complicated, intertwined, and again, intimate the relationships are. Growing into and And through recovery, a recovery journey is not just for the addict or the alcoholic. And I think that's one space where you have just thrown everything into it. And it's unheralded in a lot of instances because people look and they see the celebration of the addict whose life was completely out of control, who was on death's doorstep, and all of a sudden they're revitalized and they're living life to the fullest and to a potential that they never could have imagined before. But like for the relationships that wind up staying together in a real and meaningful sense in the world of recovery, there is work that the significant other does as well. And this is true for all relationships post-recovery, but it is just so critical and apparent in the marriages, in the close, long-term relationships that exist in our world as humans. And so it's, and you're kind of flippant, a little bit flippant about like, yeah, I just walked away from drinking. Well, you walked away from drinking, but we have done a ton of work together, and we have done a ton of soul searching. Like it is above and beyond just me going to AA, me doing the 12 steps, me doing this work, me looking for ways to serve others. Like your path has also mirrored that in a very real way. And because of that, and that was a choice that you made, because of that choice that you made, I think we're at the point that we're at. So this is not anywhere close to one-sided.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that you recognize that. I don't really think of it in those strong of terms just because it just felt like the natural next step for me. And a big piece of that is, forgiving myself, I would say, for allowing myself to be in the situation that I was in for as long as I was in it. And then also, the forgiveness for you as well. Mm-hmm. And it's a slow progression. It doesn't happen overnight. There are still moments that I get really frustrated and I, look back on certain times and I see it from a different perspective now. And I get mad at myself maybe for, like not recognizing what was truly going on in that moment or allowing that situation to occur. And, those moments are really humbling. They're difficult to relive. And, but then there's that, the flip side of it where I'm so happy that we're in a different place at this point. Mm-hmm. And while I wouldn't change a lot of those memories because they've brought us to where we are today, we get to experience this new life now that mm-hmm. we have. And you've spoken to this before, but there was a real possibility that you wouldn't be sitting on this couch with me today. Right. Just in terms of your survivability from alcoholism. And so I'm so grateful for that. And I think I've said it before here on this as well. It's just like seeing you and our son playing out in our backyard or like hearing you guys laugh together. Like these are things that I don't take lightly because they're not promised. Mm-hmm. They're never promised. And so I'm truly grateful that we get to have those experiences together.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And on forgiveness has been such a ever present, but especially lately, highly focused topic for me in particular. In thinking back on our journey, how did you think about or approach forgiveness? Was there, in your mind, when even from the point of making the decision to enter rehab, throughout rehab, whenever it might have been, like, was there a moment where you decided to forgive? Like, how did that all progress? And does forgiveness, like based on what we've been through and what we've learned through all this hardship, do you think about forgiveness in a different way, either the act of doing it or just like when it's even needed in life?
That's a great question. There's a lot to that there.
Maybe I'll give you a moment to think on that. I do want to say, like, one thing that I've noticed about you and your family in particular that has kind of always blown my mind is you come from a family that has incredible ability to forgive. I have seen that in areas where I have screwed up, where other people have hurt and screwed up, and it's always stood out to me. And so, yeah, maybe that was filler to give you time to think, but like you do come from a strong ability to forgive.
You're right. I think a big part of it is that it was just something that was instilled with me from childhood. And it's not in like a very formalized way. Like, I do not think that I ever had a conversation with my parents that was like, we're going to sit down tonight and we're going to talk about forgiveness. And we're going to talk about like why things are the way they are. And it partially is my family. I'm sure some of it was the, upbringing that I had, my Christian background, my education that I went through. And then just like the nature of who I am and who my parents are, and, my brother as well. And I just think that, it's that like dripping faucet, right? It's just always something that's been instilled as a core value and not in a deliberate way. And so I think that in terms of forgiveness for you in particular, it was never really something that I, had this moment of like a pivotal moment of, okay, I'm going to sit down tonight and I'm going to make a list of like pros and cons, and should I do this? Should I not do this? It was never really a question to me in that regard. Now, certainly, I do think that there could have come a point, if there are lines that I would not allow to be crossed in order to make that decision. But you never cross those lines. You've always maintained love for me. It isn't always been clear in certain capacities, in terms of like when you look at like, oh, how do you think someone's loving you if they're lying to you? But I don't know. It was just, I never really questioned that if I would forgive you. And it's a slow process. Like I'm still human. I'm still a girl who holds grudges, like that's just like kind of a normal human nature piece of things. Like there's things that come up occasionally where I will ask for you to like relive a certain instance in life, and sometimes it's torture for me to have to go back through that again, and sometimes it's for the best that we really have those moments to talk it through and clear the air in a lot of ways. I've got a pretty strong memory, and so there are moments where I'm like, hey, can we relive this, because I actually need to know, drinking or not drinking, like what was the scenario really going on here?
That happened more early than anything.
I think I still have those questions, but a lot of times now I'm just more okay with just kind of letting it go or not letting it become a thing, because truly, what's the point? Like, I don't know really what it resolves, other than like to give me an understanding of what my viewpoint was of it in the moment, and if it was, my perspective was true or not true. So
what about with yourself? How did you think about our approach forgiving yourself, maybe while I was in rehab or moments after we departed, or whatever that timeline might have looked like?
That's a harder question. I think that it's still an ongoing process in some ways. Like I beat myself up about it a little bit here and there, still. And it comes to mind on occasion. I think when you were in rehab, we received a lot of help from our families.
Mm-hmm.
And I utilized that time to allow others to take control, not have to have control of the situation, and really just focus on like being kind to myself, being soft with myself, like putting myself first, because that was something that I wasn't able to do prior to you entering into rehab. And so that helped in some ways. Counseling has truly helped us in a lot of ways too. And I think a lot of it has really come even after the life and death of our daughter. I think that like one thing that came up in counseling was, you know, there was this codependency with you, and then it became a codependency with me and carrying our daughter. And so now on the other side of that, you know, I've reflected a lot. I do a lot of, or did, I haven't done it as much recently, but, you know, doing devotionals and journaling, those types of things have been very helpful for me as well.
Mm-hmm. I think one of the most incredible experiences that I get to witness now, being in recovery and going through everything that we've gone through, is watching you get to, there's no good way of saying this, like reconnect with who you actually were, because so much of this journey that we went down with the alcoholism was you. It stripped away your ability to be yourself, to have your own life, identity, friendships, and things like that. And you're just, from my vantage point, I'm falling in love with you over again in a whole new way, watching this like flourishing and exploration that you get to do as your own in the time and place that we are now in life.
Mm-hmm. Well, and I feel like our lives have evolved so much from when we first met, and we were in school, and then I was working a job with very difficult hours. Then we moved out here, and then, you know, things kind of got worse with you, and then I became a new mom with Grant, and that was, you know, hard. And I think that we're getting to a point now too where the waters have settled in certain ways, and so like we get to just like lean into who we actually are, both of us, truly. And that's been a huge change as well. And I think that just like that's kind of normal going into your 30s, and you know, we're halfway through that, and our son reminds us all the time of how exactly old we are, because
he's really focusing
very
on
into
that
numbers. Which is great. However, you know, like I think that's, you know, that's just part of life too. Like we're in our mid 30s. This is where we are. We're very confident with the people that we are. And there was a lot of like suppression of that in our 20s, and a lot of side tracks that we had to go down. And now we're really digging in.
Yeah. It's been quite the experience. I don't think, like, reflecting back on early stages of recovery, you know, going through that excitement phase, kind of like the first 90 days, or especially the first 30 in rehab, when it's just like, oh gosh, you feel like you have this new life in front of you. There's obviously just the way things played out. There's no way to have predicted it, but I never could have foreseen what even just the small part of our relationship would flourish into.
Yeah, I'll point out something here as you were saying that kind of stood out to me. So one thing that I always reflect back on is the first time that I saw you, first week of visiting, like family hours or whatever at rehab, and how your eyes had changed so much. And it actually, it kind of freaked me out a little bit. One, because it was like, whoa, what happened to you in 1 week?
Like
or
how
not
white
even,
they were or what?
No, like they were just like gaunt looking before. Like there's like you looked haunted before. Like you had, yes, they were a little bit whiter, I guess you could say. But like even the circles under your eyes were just like gone in a lot of ways because you're getting rest.
Yeah.
You're kind of forced to get rest, and you were just excited to see us. Excuse me. But it kind of freaked me out a little bit because I saw this like new light in you that hadn't been there before. I was like, oh, like it in the moment I was really excited, and you know, we had a great visit. And then I think it was the second visit when I came back, when I had found out I was pregnant. Excuse me. I found out I was pregnant with our daughter, and had, you know, kind of come in and been nervous to tell you, are we going to make it through this? You had told me about like some, you know, friendships that you had started to form. I'm like, well, are we going to start just like our paths just going to start diverting into different ways? And then like seeing that light in your eyes, it was like, well, he maybe isn't going to need me in the same way that he needed me before. And is the foundation of our relationship based on that? And so I was a little bit nervous, and I told you that I was nervous. Like, are we going to be okay through this? And you were like, you know, your answer was a resounding yes. Like you felt very strongly that about us. And, you know, then I shared my news with you. And of course, I think that made you delighted in a lot of ways. So I think that, you know, that fear was calmed a little bit by that. But yeah, your eyes kind of freaked me out. You had life back in you that you hadn't.
But that's exactly it. That's what happens with these relationships when people do end up going into recovery. And this, you know, I as well as other addicts that I know are in part masters at self-sabotage, where we'll undercut ourselves, and we'll bring ourselves down. One thing I've talked about is I was scared of my potential, and so I didn't want people to have too high of expectations of me out of fear that they would come to me for something. And so I self-sabotage and just undercut. And that can happen with relationships too, when people have that moment where it's like, oh crap, this person that I've loved, that I've had this relationship, as difficult as it's been, they're moving forward, they're figuring things out. I have seen it where people either try to manipulate, and this is the non-addict, they will try to bring things back to the way they were, as terrible as it is to say it happens, or they get so freaked out they allow for the relationship to diverge. And I know people who have a good amount of recovery time under their belt who are all of a sudden going through a divorce after, 15, 20 years, with a mix of it being all that time in recovery, with a mix of it between like recovery and pre-recovery. And it winds up being exactly that, is where it's like the other person in this instance is not willing to fully come along and do the work that's required. And so that's why, like, I definitely wanted to specifically call it out. Like, it's so much more than just the addict that's involved in all of this. And it's work. It is absolutely work.
Well, I feel like, as you're saying that to me, I'm like, no, I would never want that for you. I never want you to enter back into that hell that you were going through and we were going through, because I'm so hyper protective of what we have now. Yeah. And how much it's improved from,
but you didn't know that.
Well, right. In the time just following or just prior to, like, I did not imagine that we would be in the place that we're in now. But I'm truly, I'm the hyper protective one of the whole thing. Yeah. in terms of you, and we've said it before, but like we'll be watching TV and a beer commercial comes on and I'm like, cover your eyes, don't even look at it, I don't want you to be triggered. Like those kinds of things bother me probably more than they bother you. Or we've been in spaces where there is alcohol open and around, and it's like, is he gonna grab the beer? Like like there's those thoughts that still will creep back in, but I have to trust you, and I do trust you, and you continue to put in the reps. I need those reps too.
Yes,
to
exactly.
See it. And like that's how we continue to evolve and grow in a positive way, and continue to build the life we want. And yeah, again, I'm the hyperprotective one of it all, and it gets me a little more like worked up. I think I get more emotionally volatile in those situations than you do.
Yeah.
Because like you've said before, like to you, it doesn't even apply to your life.
Right. Yeah, it feels like it's just totally and completely been eradicated at this point, which is just wild to say. And I should definitely jump in and like clarify that doesn't mean complacency. That doesn't mean letting go of all of the understanding of the work that's required, like literally every single day. But I don't know. I was thinking about it the other day. It's just like, even though our days have hit some sort of routine, seemingly steady state, it's just like, it's this incredible experience where every day almost feels like a new life in some way. And it's just like, it's this really, really beautiful experience. Like I hope others get to experience it in this manner, as crazy as that sounds.
And I think it's going to continue to evolve too, because like we have Grant, and what does this look like as he gets older?
Absolutely.
In terms of like his interaction or relationship, I guess you could say, with alcohol. Like what does that look like? And how do we introduce it? And in terms of like the concept, I don't know what it will look like for him. And so that is a big challenge we have up ahead of us. And is he prone to similar tendencies to you? I don't know. We'll see. He does. He definitely is your son.
Yep.
We'll put it that way. Like he, has a lot of similar traits to you. And
like throwing the bike down in the alleyway.
Yep. Short fuse in terms of frustration. Is that a 3-year-old mentality or from his father? No, just kidding. So I think that, we have to approach that at some point, and that's going to be ahead in the future. And that's not something we're concerning ourselves with now, but
no. Yeah, I've definitely thought about it, especially I mean, again, that's why I wanted to sit down and write when things were close to the chaos and the pain and the suffering that we went through. Is I just want to be able to hopefully capture that, and really, I just think about it as like, I'm not going to worry about if he's overly sensitive to alcoholism or addiction, or not, because say he is. Well, the best thing that I can do is show him how to live with it. And, really to prove to him that, yeah, okay, maybe you do have that, like that drive that I have, not in a positive way. Do I use that term? But that drive. And, I just want to present a life that shows that you can manage, you can, live fully, with it, and be grateful for it, for what beauty it does bring forward.
Right. Yeah. I think that, there's been, going back to the hyperprotective side of things here too, there's comments that are made along the way of like, how are you doing? Like, being the spouse of an alcoholic isn't isn't for everyone, right? But it, like, there's no drink that I would trade for being able to have you around.
Yeah.
And that's one of the reasons that I don't drink, is because I mean, truly, that substance really broke down a lot of my life, our life, and it's not what I'm, here for at this point. Now, does that mean I will stay in this standpoint forever? I have no idea.
Right.
And I think that's something, again, kind of like Grant, we'll navigate it as it comes up.
Yeah.
But at this point, like, man, there's one thing in my life that has hurt me that I have a hard time forgiving. It is that alcohol.
Mm-hmm.
It's no one person necessarily, but it is that substance. And so at this point, I'm too hurt to forgive, and I'm too hurt to go back to that place.
Yeah.
So,
well, on that note, like, I think it's making sure we've talked about this a lot, but recently, like, differentiating the forgiveness from trust. I know I'm kind of hopping back to a topic that we were on earlier, but it's what I'm really realizing is the importance of separating those two concepts, because forgiveness in a lot of ways is the letting go of the building of the resentment. And if you're truly forgiving, you are accepting things for what they are. Maybe you're excusing the person or rationalizing the situation a little bit in your own mind. I think that depends on the situation and the needs of the person doing the forgiveness. But forgiveness is for the benefit of yourself, especially me as an alcoholic, because I build resentments off of situations where I withhold forgiveness, and I aim to hurt people. Mm-hmm. And then that always just comes back and strikes me.
It's its own form of poison.
It is. And so, I don't know, I've started to think about forgiveness, gratitude, and trust as like these separate entities. And I threw gratitude in there because one of the things that I think we have gotten really, really strong at is pulling gratitude as close to in the moment as we possibly can. I had to start off a gratitude practice where it was like 7 a.m. I'm listing off 3 things that I'm grateful for. 6 p.m. every day, I'm listing off 3 things I'm grateful for. Rinse and repeat. Just get used to the practice. And then all of a sudden, I was finding myself more so like, oh man, I'm looking at a beautiful scene in front of me right now. Like maybe it's a sunset on the clouds or something like that. And I'm finding myself filled with gratitude for the beauty or in awe of what I'm seeing. And the power of the in-moment capability is so much greater. And I'm finding that I want to get to a point where I have that with forgiveness as well. Because again, forgiveness, all good?
Yeah, all good. I was just pulling up a quote about gratitude that I wanted to review here, but we let in a little
I don't know if the music's going to pick up.
But
anyway, go ahead. That broke my train of thought.
Yeah,
so.
I'll let you think on that one here. But I'm not going to read this whole thing, but there was a post I saw recently on Instagram about gratitude. Did you end up reading that yesterday?
Yeah.
Okay. And it was just about like how there is an armor in being grateful, and how it's not just necessarily, it doesn't deny the hard parts. It declares that God is still good. It's a quote from Clearly Stated. I'll make sure that it's not my words, her words. Gratitude does not deny the hard. It declares that God is still good. And it just essentially goes through the basics of it. Is you don't need clarity to be grateful. You don't need, I don't know what this says, resolution to rejoice. If he is was faithful then, he is faithful now. And so it's another way of thinking about gratitude. You might cut this whole portion out because it kind of goes off on a tangent here, but
we'll see.
Essentially just like that. I mean, like, we've had these hard moments and you can still be grateful through that hard time, essentially, is what it all breaks down to.
Yeah.
It doesn't always have to be just like the things that are happy in life that we're grateful for.
No,
or
not
like
at all.
The juxtaposition of like my life versus, you know, somebody else's life and what they're going through. Like, well, at least I have this, or whatever that scenario may be. Like, it doesn't have to look like that either. Gratitude can be, you know, the hard stuff too. And
absolutely. Well, I'm probably not going to cut it out because up to this point, I've largely kept these unedited. So we'll, I think it's a good way to kind of cap.
Please excuse my random tangent here and music that popped up. I have no idea why Instagram does the thing it does, but here we are.
It's the platform and the posters too. Like, come on, keep the music a little chill. Just chasing.
Oh, don't hate on the poster. She's pretty. She's got some good wisdom about her. So
yeah, it does speak to though. Like, go. We can be talking on the same topic and. You know, I don't know, go with what resonates with you. Sure. Like, we share things with each other about like things that are really impactful for us via different channels or, you know, whatever that deliver it. And it hits sometimes, it falls short sometimes for the other person. And, you know, it's two journeys here. Two is one. So there are two more questions that I have for you. And one of them is going to be seemingly a jump back or a random pivot, but it's just something I've realized I never asked. We've talked a lot. I've talked a lot. I've written a lot about the first 5 minutes, the first hour after departing from you in rehab. I've never actually asked what happened when you were escorted out of the intake room. What was going through your mind?
It sound like I was being unruly.
No.
They, you know, showed me where the door was, basically. In the first 5 minutes after. So I walked out. Your bag was still in the lobby. And they had kind of given us like the list of what you could and couldn't take. And I think that I had to pull a few items out because they're really, really strict about like any item that happens to contain any form of alcohol would, you know,
like shaving cream.
Bring. Yeah. She couldn't bring shaving cream. I think the conditioner from like the little travel size bottles that you had alcohol in it. Technically it's like, ew, I can't imagine drinking conditioner, but somebody might do it. So I think I had to like grab a couple items out of there. That was really it was kind of a surreal moment, of course, just really walking out alone. And I think that they gave me some like packets and the paperwork and I maybe asked a question or two at reception and then I just walked away. Your mom was waiting in my car and she drove us back, and I don't remember if we talked or if we listened to music. I really don't remember any of that at this point. There is a piece of relief that comes from knowing that you're being watched, observed 24/7, more or less, for the next month. And I knew that I wasn't going to be able to speak to you for the first couple of days. And that I would be hearing from a counselor just with like a check-in of how you were doing, like physically, like how your health was. So from those standpoints, I felt very confident and comfortable with this situation. Was it scary? Yes. But we had kind of like, we had broken down all the barriers for you to go to rehab. We had broken down the barriers for me to manage our household as well. And so I think I just had confidence in that. I just had to lean into my faith a lot, that this was going to promote some kind of change with you. I think there was some questioning in terms of, would you buy into it, I guess is the best way to put it, only because you had conned your way out of previous counseling type sessions. You had conned your way out of saying that it was alcoholism. And so where are you going to be? And that was actually something I brought up to the counselor when we talked. It was, is there anything we need to know about Kyle? And one of my responses was, he's incredibly intelligent. He knows how to work the situation, or, craft the narrative.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure he's not the only one who's done this, because you guys are specialists in this regard, but watch out for him, kind of thing. And some of that probably stemmed from a place of hurt for me as well, but it was a big part of it, in those first couple of days.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know. I can't even really place myself in your shoes on that drive home. Like, I'm just thinking about my own drive back from there, the 28 days later, and just even all the range of emotions that I was feeling at that time. And that was after there was resolve, and yes, there were unknowns, but I felt determination and fear, but determination. And it's a long, short drive. I'm sure. So in closing, and maybe this is too big of a question, so just let me know. But as we've traveled our journey, as we've learned, as we've engaged with other people who are at various points in their own journey, what do you feel like is the message that either you wished you would have heard as the spouse or the loved one of an alcoholic before recovery, or that you would just really want to impress on loved ones of alcoholics or addicts who might be struggling right now?
So it's a great question. I think that the answer excuse me, the answer that I would give is not the answer that I would want to hear in the depths of it.
Yes, right.
Because, and I think this whole discussion today really presents that. It's like, we live in this great life. We've crafted a really good life for ourselves in the aftermath of everything that we've been through. And I feel very lucky. I feel hopeful. I feel like there was light at the end of the tunnel, even though it was very, very dark when we were in it. And not to say that this is the end by any means, but it's a totally different chapter than where we were prior to you walking through the doors of rehab. I don't think I would have wanted to hear that message, though, while I was going through it, because it was so hard and it felt so hopeless. It didn't feel like it was ever going to change.
Mm-hmm.
And if someone had said that to me, I would have been like, I can't listen to you. There's no way. My logical brain will say, no way.
Yep.
No chance that this is ever going to change.
Mm-hmm.
What is the tipping point? Because there was many times when things should have changed.
Mm-hmm.
You should have hit rock bottom at other points than where I think ultimately you got to.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that in that way, hearing a message prior to would have been really difficult.
Yeah.
All of that to say, though, I think that we've encountered loved ones of people that have gone through or are in the depths of in their hard place right now. And my message to them would be that, you know, you've got to take care of yourself. You got to put your life first. But there is hope. There is reason to hold out and to continue to love that person to the best of your ability. And there is a chance that things will get better. And I mean, I've said this to those people, and I'll say it here as well. I'm also someone who you can reach out to, and I will listen. I will not try to impress upon what our situation has been. But I'm here, and you have community beyond just your situation.
Yeah. I think that's really well said. And, you know, it's stated in every intro and closing and basically everything I write about with this. And it's just the focus on, despite the struggles, despite the isolation, despite the madness that the addict and alcoholic feels, and that is often reflected and felt by their loved ones, you're not alone. There are millions of people who have found a solution and live well-meaning, incredible lives. And I think just doing what we can to impress on those that do feel alone, helpless, and hopeless is that there are others like you, and just hold on and keep fighting. And I hope in the smallest of ways, if this has allowed someone to do that, this whole body of work, then all our time spent here is well worth it.
What do you always say? Life is full of incredible
chocolates?
No.
What do I always
I
say?
know.
I'm very curious.
It's in your intro, right? Or your out. Do you have an outro?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
And we're rapidly approaching it.
Well, stay tuned and listen to what Kyle says. We'll figure it out.
We'll figure this one out momentarily.
Life is full of incredible riches. Is that how you?
Yeah, it is. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I do listen to the outro. I listen to the entire episode every time I listen, for the record.
All right. Well, thank you. And thank everyone else. You all have been an incredible part of this journey. It's obviously not over. It's just time to stop, reflect, and think about what's next and chart our course forward. And so I love you, Alyssa.
I love you, Kyle.
Thank you for doing this, and thank you for allowing me to do this. I know this is hard to open up personally, but it also opens up our family and our lives to others. So it's been meaningful to be able to do that along with you.
Mm-hmm. I'm very proud of you.
Thanks. And love to you all who are out there, who are listening, who are striving to be better, to improve, and to make the progress that you so desire. If you enjoyed this podcast, share it with others who might find it impactful, and give us a rating through your streaming platform of choice. Ratings and comments help spread the work to others who are desperately searching for a solution. This simple action could have profound impacts on the lives of others. My hope is that my story can help those who feel alone in their struggles with addiction or any other aspects of life. You can follow us on social media at Chapter 3 Stigma on Instagram and YouTube. If you want to reach out with a message through one of those channels, I will respond and let you know that you are not alone. All the best. You are loved, and know that this life is full of abundant joy and wonder and is worth every struggle and bit of suffering you must endure. Until next time.